On this episode of AV Week, we look back at 2018, bringing you the best conversations and stories throughout the year. All that and more, next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AV Week, episode 383, the best of 2018.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Crestron.
This is AV Week, a very special AV Week. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Thank you for joining us. This is a kind of our look back, our best of episode of the year. As we approach the new year, it kind of helps to look back at some of the highlights of the AV industry through the stories that we've covered here. In AV Week 351, I was joined by Corey Schaefer, Sean Robinson, and David Maldo talking about IKEA using digital projection to visualize rug sizes. Corey Schaefer starts off talking about how integrators can utilize AV solutions in creative and innovative ways.
Many people are visual, and when you're creating a layout of a room, I mean, to start with the rug, I mean, I just thought it was brilliant on a number of factors. As a consumer myself, as I personally hate IKEA, I hate to be told how to walk through a store, and so on. But also what this does is we look at what's happening in the retail space, where it becomes more and more challenging to get customers into retail. This is yet another draw because you can't get this on online shopping, right? So so as I looked at it, it was a way to get consumers back into that retail space, and in a way that others probably have not thought of. So for our channel partners to be able to go in and talk about the value of AV, I mean, this is really brilliant in a space that is in a phase right now where they're reinventing and trying to draw people. And we've seen this change in retail where we're less about going in and buying something and taking it home, but rather having that experience of what it's like. I remember when I first walked into an Apple store to buy I think it was a watch, and I could order it in the store, but I couldn't leave with it. Thought it was absolutely ridiculous, right? And so we've seen retail as they struggle against online consumers and shoppers. How do we get more people in the space? And that's what this is. That's what this said to me. They're able to accomplish something that just can't be done online. I think it's great.
Our next segment comes to us from AV Week 355 as part of our coverage of InfoComm 2018 in Las Vegas. While there, we talked to a host of people, including Dawn Mead, George Tugger, and Josh Trago, about their experiences at InfoComm 2018. Dawn Mead starts off talking about her first year being an end user at InfoComm 2018.
Yeah, I sat with several of these folks, including Bill, on the end user panel for IMCA yesterday, and it was a fairly large room for that luncheon, and it was pretty darn full for most of the thing until we just sort of took over the show and kept talking, and then it sort of thinned out. But just people I've talked to and interacted with at the hotel, on the shuttle buses, at the parties, and on the show floor, there are a lot of end users, university staff, people like me that work for large corporations, people like me that work for large corporations that work for other customers. Yeah. There's a lot of us, apparently.
I want to touch on something, because Bradford's experience, I want to see if it was similar to yours. His experience was because he had a green tag, and here at InfoComm 2018 this year, if you had a green stripe on your tag, indicated you were as an end user. When he walked up to people in their booths, they would not talk to him technically, right? You have that, and not for nothing, you were a female. The AV industry is a bad history of not taking female technical prowess seriously. So, did you experience anything where somebody wouldn't necessarily take your technical prowess seriously?
Actually, I didn't, but I think I'm kind of a rare case. Okay. Because, as you know, and as people that have seen me walking around the show know, I've got 4 badges. Yes. So I've got an exhibitor badge, I've got a press badge, I've got an end user badge, which I am now, and I've got my speaker badge. Okay. And I put them on a ring so that I could just flip when I get to the booth which one I want them to scan, usually my end user badge. But because I've got all these badges, because they see that I'm a speaker, because I have my, hashtag AV loincloth worth of ribbons with credentials and things, I sort of come into the booth commanding enough that, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Here's why. Now let's talk about the technical stuff.
Okay.
And also, as I said at the women's breakfast to some of the folks at my table, of all of the STEM fields, despite our history, I maintain that AV is one of the most female-friendly and female-welcoming of the STEM fields. I have friends that are data scientists, computer scientists, lab coat-wearing scientists.
Yeah.
All of them have horror stories that I just am amazed at, because the AV industry as a rule has been very welcoming to me as a woman, especially once I prove that I know my stuff, which is why I encourage young females in our industry to take classes, get certified, and know their stuff. So I didn't really have that experience, but I had a whole lot of things that indicated I wasn't your average bear.
Okay.
So
Our next segment comes to us from AVWeek 355. Harry Mead, Tracy Brefka, and Alex Simonesco talks about LG's OLED Canyon installation at CES 2018. Alan Simonesco from Float 4 starts off talking about the possibilities for these installations in commercial uses.
When I saw that picture earlier this week, I was like, that is awesome. The fact that we can actually create these shapes and contours with OLED at this scale, I think is very interesting. We would have probably gone with an LED product prior to that. But now that it's scalable, I mean, I saw the installation in Seoul at the airport, where they had a bunch of these hung on the ceiling, and that was a pretty large installation in itself. But seeing, we work with a lot of architects. We work in built environments, and we're more on the form aspect of it rather than function. So it's really about what it evokes and the emotions that it solicits. But I totally get the fact that there's an imperative for functionality in some of that applications as well. When I see this, I'm really excited because of the things that we could do with digital media in a built environment, and how it doesn't look like a screen that's hung to a wall, where it looks like it's a material in the space. And the more I see these types of innovations that are happening, the more excited I get, because I see this continual evolution where we'll just be able to make it more and more embedded into built environment. And you see at this scale, I mean, who knows? Salesforce might say this is our lobby in 5 years or something like that. So I think that is awesome. I think it also brings a lot of challenges, but challenges are what nurtures evolution. So content production on a scale of this size is completely different than what we're used to with the vast majority of digital media platforms or displays that are still that are in 16:9, and there's a necessity to have an established format. But as we use digital media as a material into the space, that's where these challenges come up, is how do you create content for something that large? How do you frame it? Because you can't see the whole thing at once, right? And all the systems that do the playback, and then interactivity, which is really one of our specialties as well, is how do you generate real-time content at that pixel count? It's like 294 panels, is that it? And they're not 4K, right? They're full HD, I guess. Regardless of whether they're 4K or full HD, that's a lot of pixels to push.
Mm-hmm. It is. And actually, I want to real quickly on Alex mentioned the Salesforce Lobby. We'll put a link in on the show page. That lobby itself is an piece of art, right? This is the one where, if you haven't seen it, again, we'll put a link on the page. It mimics the weather outside. So if it's raining, the entire, it's not quite floor to ceiling, but it's a 20-foot or 25-foot lobby, and about 2/3 of the way down are these displays, and the water over kind of cascades over the doorways, and it's quite well done.
Yeah.
So I can actually absolutely see this being replaced as long as nothing else pops up in the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, it is technology, and I don't expect the OLED, this Canyon, to be static. I don't expect this to be the last word on it. Tracy, real quick question, and you can talk about this if you'd like, but really overarching, what does CES mean for the commercial audio video industry? I mean, this is one example, but it's people who go to InfoComm really don't have the breadth or the scope of that show.
Well, I think it brings technology in a little bit more. I mean, CES I in my last life with Audio Technica, I went to CES a lot, and you always saw what was going to happen 2 years from now, pretty much at that show, and then it would bleed into the other markets. When I investigate a little more about OLED, because I really don't. That's not what I do. I do microphones, and it sounds good. But the uses I can see with this type of screen, Broadway productions, live shows, people who have a larger imagination and can put it, like a production company who wants to put this huge set on, but they couldn't do it with the LED screens because they're too damn heavy. So it gives it a little bit more flexibility to these people who want to be a little more creative in what they're doing. So I can see there's going to be commercial use for this, but not in a corporate situation. There's going to be use on a Broadway stage. There's going to be use on a tour, a rock and roll tour. They're doing all these they're playing orchestrations to Star Wars behind an orchestra.
Yep.
Something like that. I can see what an application for these things to be stupendous, and it would look great.
Our final segment comes to us with a bit of a twist. Back in April, we had the chance to check out Samsung's new Onyx cinema screen that debuted in LA. While I was out there covering that, George Tucker took the helm for AVWeek, episode 347, along with Dawn Mead, Victoria Ferrari, and Mike Tomei, talking about Dante supporting AE567. Victoria Ferrari starts off talking about how standardized audio is vital to a cohesive AV experience.
Audio is important, it really is. It's something that, the average person doesn't understand, but it affects them in a way that they don't even realize, I think that audio, a lot of times, even me, I'm learning more and becoming more of an audiophile because my husband is a live sound engineer. And as he's upgrading our living room, he's doing all these things like changing the acoustics in the room. And, he puts like pink noise through the speakers and he like adjusts the levels of the bass. And and then we go from watching a movie, on our old system to now watching it on our new system. And it's almost like the video looks better with better audio. It's like that, it's crazy how people don't realize the difference between good and really good in audio. And I think that, having standards, like Dawn said, the IT industry's been doing it. It's the way of the world. And, when you think about like our video connections, right? How many different connections do we have? HDMI, DisplayPort, mini DisplayPort, and, coax, and all of the old analog signals, so many different ways to transport video. But in the IT world, it's one cable, it's one connection, it's RJ45. And, we've got to get on that bus because, it's the way the world's going.
Well, that is our best of for 2018. Personally, I want to say thank you for continuing to watch, listen, read, follow along as we all go through this crazy experience of the audiovisual industry. If you want to follow me, you can. My name is Tim Albright. It is TD, Tim David Albright on the Twitters. More importantly, go by our website, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. You'll find this program. You'll find our other weekly program called ResiWeek, a number of really great monthly programs that kind of dive deeper into the AV industry. State of Control looks at control and automation. AV Social looks at social and marketing. All that and more at avnation.tv. Also, while you're there, check out our supporter section. These are the folks who help us financially, help us bring you AVWeek, ResiWeek, and everything else that we do. And in about a month or so's time, will help us bring you ISE, Integrated Systems Europe 2019. So all that and more at avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.